Welcome to the channel. We're going to do a little easy maintenance today. We're going to change the fluid on my rear differential. I have a 2016 Rubicon Hard Rock Edition and I have ARB covers on my differentials. We only need a few things to get this job done. I've got 2 quarts of Valvoline 80 weight 90 oil. It is not synthetic. I paid about $9 for a quart. We also need a ratchet, and this is a 8mm hex bit, or also known as a Allen key. That will get the fill plug off, which has a dipstick on it. It'll also get the drain plug out as well. Have some safety glasses as always, and some wire cutters to cut the end off the quarts. I've also got a very large measuring cup here, and I want to see exactly how many ounces or quarts of oil I'm getting out of the rear differential when we drain it. The owner's manual says that for these Dana 44s, on the rear differential, it is 76 ounces, which is 4.75 pints or 2.25 liters. Now, this is where it gets a little complicated. I have ARB differential covers, and what amount of oil goes into the differential with ARB covers, and that is in dispute. You can spend a lot of time online and people are all over the map. You put more oil in with an ARB cover, you put in less oil with an ARB cover. So I did what I normally do, which is to contact the manufacturer, and I called ARB Tech Services. And he said because of the way the cover is designed, it's a little more shallow than the factory cover. It's going to take a little bit less oil, but he wouldn't say how much. What they do is they send you a suggestion on how to get the oil level right with the new ARB cover. What they want you to do is to take the stock cover and then put the ARB cover next to each other flat and do a straight edge from the bottom of the fill hole across to the ARB cover, which would also have the dipstick taped to the outside. And with that, you can see where it would fall on the dipstick if it was filled to the bottom of the fill level on the original cover. And so with the original stock cover, you just fill the oil all the way up to the top of the fill hole. But on an ARB, the fill hole is at the very top of the cover, so you definitely don't fill it all the way up to the top. It'd be way too much oil. You'd end up having oil blowing out your breather tube and also causing problems with your seal. So that's the way to determine it. Now, I didn't install these covers. They were installed at a Jeep shop, and they put in 2 quarts of oil, according to my invoice, in the rear differential. So that's 64 ounces when the owner's manual calls for 76 ounces of fluid in the rear differential. So that's 12 ounces less that they put in there. I'm going to stick with that because they install ARB covers all the time. They should know where it's supposed to fall on the dipstick. I checked the dipstick, and from the end of the dipstick, which has a little magnet on it, the oil level is about a quarter way up the dipstick. And that looks like what full is supposed to be according to the 2 quarts that they put in. So we'll drain it out. We'll see if in fact they did have 2 quarts in there. And I'm going to put 2 quarts in. If you have a question on this, I would suggest that you go straight to the source rather than getting information online. Talk to the people at ARB. They're very cooperative. They want to help out. And Tech Services was very responsive. I was able to get them on the phone, talk to them for a while, and then they sent me an email. I do want to note that with this Rubicon, which has a true lock differential, I do not have to add a additive. With limited slip differentials, you may have to add a additive such as the true track differential. But this is just regular 80 weight 90, and I don't need to add any kind of additive. And I should note too that if you are towing, according to the specifications that are in my owner's manual, you would use a different weight oil than the 80 weight 90. Now, I don't do any towing in this Jeep, so I will be using the 80 weight 90. All right, let's get under the Jeep and get started. It's a 8mm Allen key or hex socket. Remove the drain plug. Now this drain plug has a magnet on the end of it, and we'll see if we have metal shavings on the magnet. It's hard to get it off. The magnet keeps pulling on it. Wow. This doesn't look good. We definitely have metal shavings down on the bottom. And it looks to me like a significant amount. They say there's always going to be some shavings, but that looks like an awful lot to me. So I'll get this completely cleaned up. I'm going to go ahead and remove the top plug, fill plug. I forgot to get it on camera, but I did check the dipstick on the top fill, and it was about a quarter. The oil showed about a quarter of the dipstick. There's a magnet on the end of this as well, the dipstick. I'll just let this drain for a while. Make sure we get everything out of there. Definitely concerned about the amount of metal shavings on the drain plug magnet. It's been dripping for about maybe 15 minutes, and we're at 64 ounces, just a hair above 64 ounces. So that puts us 12 ounces short of the 76 ounces or 4.75 pints that this Dana 44 is supposed to have in it, according to the owner's manual. So I think I've let this drain long enough. We're at a tad over 64 ounces, and you're never going to get all the oil out this way. Now, if you took off the cover, you could get more of the oil out, but for what I'm trying to accomplish, I don't need to do that. When people take the cover off, they often clean it with some kind of, aerosol cleaner, brake cleaner, or what have you. But we're not doing that today, so we're going to put this cover back. You see how strong that magnet is. It wants to grab anywhere and everywhere. Incredibly strong magnet. I might have to take these gloves off to get this threaded back on here, right? I am not going to lie, man, getting that lined up was a bear. There's an O-ring on this drain plug. You want to make sure that that stays on there, obviously. I'm going to leave this container right here, because when I try to get the bottle into the fill hole, I'm probably going to lose some, and I want to know how much I lose. So, I can calculate how much more I need to put in. But we've got a little over 64 ounces. You're not going to get all of it out. I mean, it could probably sit here for hours and still be dripping. Just have to cut a little bit of this off. So how do you do this without making a mess and losing a lot of oil? Well, we'll see. It's kind of a difficult spot to get to. All right, the first bottle is drained out. I ended up taking a knife and cutting a little slit up at the top to get it to drain faster. otherwise it was going to take forever. And sometimes I use a pump that attaches to, you know, a quart of oil or whatever, and then you can pump it using a hose. That might be a better way of doing this. But anyway, we drained the first one out, so now we'll start the second one. And I think maybe I lost a tablespoon of oil, not very much. I lost a little more that time. Not as good a technique. So now I've got 2 quarts in there, and that's 64 ounces. We'll see where it is now. Still seems like it's a little bit over a quarter. I'm going to put the dipstick back in and I'm going to thread it down and see what level it is on the dipstick. There is an O-ring on here. You want to make sure you don't lose the O-ring. The dipstick was about a quarter way is how I would describe it. If it was in the middle of the dipstick, I would say it was halfway. It was below that and it was only about a quarter on the dipstick. I am concerned about the amount of metal shavings that were on the drain plug dipstick. So we'll tighten that back up with the 8mm. All right, that wasn't too difficult, and I had checked with a local garage if I wanted to get the oil changed in both the front and rear differential, and they were going to charge close to $300. Somebody else told me that the dealership charges like $500, and I think that's not even taking the diff covers off. That's just draining it out. So it's a pretty simple thing to do, and you can save some money. So I hope this video helped, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.